Another edition of This Day in Black Baseball History. I want to welcome everybody. And if you're joining me, I usually give about a minute for people to join. And feel free to let me know where you're joining from. If you have questions tonight, you can drop a few of those. I've got quite a few things I'm talking about tonight, but I will try to answer your questions if I can. One of these days, I'm going to do a broadcast. I'm just going to let you know when I'm going to come on, and I'm going to just answer questions. And you can fire them the most difficult questions. I'm going to test my knowledge. So anyway, I want to thank everybody for joining this evening. This is the January 28th, 2026 edition of This Day in Black Baseball History, an ongoing conversation where we just drop information and the conversation never stops. So if you're interested in baseball history, you're interested in American history, you want to know about various communities around this country, you're in the right place. I'm well traveled. A couple of years ago, I actually made a 200 city tour where I went to 17 states and spoke in 200 different cities. Man, that was quite a feat. Took me about 4 years to do that, and it was unique. So one of the days I'm going to write about that. But anyway, I want to go ahead and get to work. So once again, if you're joining me and you like what I'm doing here, go ahead and subscribe. And if not, hey, you can find somewhere else to go that you might like better. But if you like baseball history and you like to hear somebody talk about it with a passion, this is the place to be. So let's go and get some of these facts that happened on today while people are still joining us, all right? So we're going to go back to January the 28th, 1916. And this is an interesting story. A guy by the name of Albert Mowbray, Moubray, age 20, was meeting with some of his baseball teammates at a hall there on Chestnut Street in Annapolis, Maryland, when he accidentally shot himself in the heart. How about that? He was carelessly handling a pistol he owned when it accidentally went off, killing him. So his body was taken to J. Albert Adams, it's almost a tongue twister, undertaking and prepared for burial. So with that, I want to give you today's trivia question. First of all, I know you have never heard of that baseball player and probably never heard that there was a baseball playing in Annapolis, Maryland, but you can bet wherever there are African Americans, there was baseball. So here's today's trivia question, and see if you can handle this one, all right? So how many Negro League owners can you name that were in the mortuary business, all right? Okay, now I'm going to come back to that question after I go ahead and give a few other facts. And so if you hang in here, some people that think they're quick with their fingers, they want to go out and see what they can find on AI. Some people think they know, they want to shoot something here. Go ahead and do that. But that's going to be tonight's trivia question. And I have some loaded answers for that. All right. So we're going to go to January 28th. Just moving along, 1922, Andrew Rube Foster is re-elected president and treasurer of baseball's Negro National League after a 3-day session with league affiliates at Chicago's Appomattox Club. So Andrew Rube Foster had the pleasure of interviewing several members of his family, and his great nephew, Doug Foster, is also somebody that I talk to periodically, and you can see Doug out there. I think he's online too. So anyway, but that's Andrew Rube Foster, the president of the Negro National League, and I've written some wonderful things about him. I always like to tell people that he's in the Hall of Fame at Cooperstown, New York, is a baseball administrator, but he should have been there as a pitcher. And if I could ever do anything that would mean something in the Hall of Fame, I would change his plaque to make him a player instead of administrator. But he did both of them very well. But as a player, he might have been the greatest pitcher in America at the turn of the century. And I've used quotes before where Turkey Mike Donlin, who was a guy who picked up 200 hits when he was playing for the New York Giants in 1905, he said that Rube Foster was a superior of Three Fingers Brown, you probably heard him, the great Cubs pitcher, and Christy Mathewson, the great New York Giants pitcher. So just know that Ruth Foster needs a little more consideration. So I've got a few people coming in here. Okay, Bob. Okay, Bob, you're on a roll. You're catching me all the time now. Okay, and did you? Hopefully, you got the trivia question. The trivia question for today is. Can you name any owners of Negro League teams that were in the mortuary business? Now, if you've been following me lately and listened to some of my broadcasts, one of them I've been talking about, not maybe this week or last week, okay? So anyway, but I'm going to give you a little bit more information on that. So that's tonight's trivia question, all right? So if anybody says, somebody said nice jersey, custom made, yeah, I get a lot of custom made jerseys, and that's one of my things. I hate to wear things off the rack. And I got to get a hat, though, that matches this jersey. I have this hat. And sometimes I wear these short bill hats because they're great for broadcasting, too. Yeah. So anyway, if you're joining me from somewhere, just let me know where you're joining from. A lot of people come in and say hello and things like that. All right, so let's go to a baseball player who's playing basketball again. So this is January 28, 1933. The Savoy Big Five basketball team of Chicago defeated the Paris Cleaners 45-29 in Springfield, Illinois at the local Elks Club Arena. And Joe Lillard of the Negro Leagues and professional football, of course, he played with the Chicago Cardinals in the NFL, but he also was a Negro League player, played for Oregon in college football. Anyway, he was in the lineup, and he finished with 9 points scored in this particular game. So Joe Lillard is somebody you want to look up. I talk about Joe Lillard all the time, all the time. He grew up in Mason City, Iowa. Went to an integrated school in Mason City, Iowa. All right, so just want to let you know about Joe Lillard. We're going to keep on dancing along because I want to get back to that trivia question. Somebody said, hello from hi from Beantown. I guess that means Boston. Yeah, Boston. And I'm trying to think if I talked anything relatedly. I had something a few days ago. I think I was talking about Boston when they were going to join the new Continental League. So yeah, but yeah, Boston has a long legacy in the Negro Leagues too, but not of Negro League teams, but of players. So yeah, Boston is a good place I love to talk about, right? Okay, and so here we go. This is not a Boston comment, but it is another baseball comment. January 28, 1945. Chet Brewer tossed a 7-hitter and whiffed 12 batters. Is his Kansas City Royals? Did you catch that name, Kansas City Royals? This is 1945. That's not a new name. Black teams were using that name all along. They lost a 4-0 game to Bill Feaster's Long Beach All-Stars in a game played at the local recreation park. So Chet Brewer tossed a 7-hitter, struck out 12 batters, and still lost 4-0, okay? And pitching for the All-Stars was Rex Cecil, who tossed a 1-hitter through 6 innings. And another guy came right behind him. Valley Eves came on and relieved and allowed a couple of hits in the ninth to complete the 3-hit win. So Chet Brewer pitched a 7-hitter, and those two pitchers combined for a 3-hitter, and they beat Chet Brewer's team. Now, who picked up those 3 hits? Well, first of all, Wild Bill Wright out of Nashville and Lloyd Pepper Bassett. I don't know if you heard of Pepper Bassett. He used to play for Birmingham. He used to come out with a rocking chair for exhibitions, and he'd rocking his chair, and the pitcher would throw him balls, and he'd just never get out that rocker. That was Lloyd Pepper Bassett, okay? And the other one was Eugene Smith. Eugene Smith was out of it's a town just right across the border from Hannibal, Missouri. I've been there too, so there's not Keokuk. It's another town right between Keokuk and Hannibal. I'll think about it in the meantime. Maybe somebody knows that area and they can tell me right quick, okay? But it's definitely going to be in Iowa. No, it's in Illinois. I think it's in Illinois. So anyway, that was Gene Smith. And of course, he played a lot of baseball around St. Louis. Okay, and let's see. Okay, so Rex Cecil, he was a left-hander, and he had 2 brief seasons with the Boston Red Sox in 1944, 1945, and Valley Chiefs Eves, a right-hander. He had over 200 wins in a lengthy minor league career, but he only won 24 National and American League games. So anyway, that was those 2 pitchers defeated Chet Brewer 4-0 out in California. All right, so here's another one. January the 28th, 1949. I'm trying to work hard to get back to my trivia question. Now, my trivia question, if you're just joining me, is can you name any Negro League owners who were in the mortuary business? All right. All right. So now we have a fact here. This is my next. I'm rolling right along. January 28th, 1949. The Negro National League New York Giants announced the signing of two African American players, pitcher Ford Smith out of Arizona and Monty Irvin. Okay, so you've probably heard about Monty Irvin, but don't know about Ford Smith. Yeah, Ford Smith had played for the Kansas City Monarchs as well before he came to the New York Giants. He never did make the National League roster as far as a player, but he played a considerable amount of minor league baseball before he decided to throw in the towel. So that's Ford Smith. Look him up, guys. These are guys that I love talking about. Somewhere I do have a picture, and Ford Smith's on that picture, and it's autographed by Willie Brown and Earl Taborin. They're down in Puerto Rico playing ball, and I have a number of pictures that I got from Bob Thurman when they were down there playing Winter League baseball with Ford Smith on those photographs. So, all right. So, hey guys, somebody said Greenlee. So, if somebody asked me about Gus Greenlee, are you from Pittsburgh? Let me know. They're asking. Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. So you're trying to say, I love Monty. You have a signed baseball from him. Yep, he was good at Monty Irvin. When I would talk to Monty Irvin, he would tell me really intimate things about what was going on in the background of the major leagues, not only when he played, but when he worked there. He worked in the commissioner's office for a while and did some things. And he always used to have one line he would tell me. He said, you can write the hell out of this after I'm gone. And so one of these days, every once in a while I'll drop something that Monty Irvin might have said. But yeah, he was outspoken, but a lot of people didn't know that unless you just sit down with him. But his famous saying was, you can write the hell out of it after I'm gone. All right. So anyway, he did have a pretty good career with the New York Giants as well. Okay, so that's Monty Irvin. Okay, so now where are you joining from? This looks like James. James, I can't pronounce the last spot. I can't see what the last name is, but yeah, where are you joining from, James? Let me know. So, all right. So now I guess your other guesses are Gus Greenlee or Soldier Boy Selmer. Well, these are all New York people. Bojangles, Robinson, those are all connected to the New York Giants. Okay, you're from Boston. Okay, I got you. Now, you're going to take a shot at that question. Which Negro Leaguers were in the owners were in the mortuary business? Hey, I'm almost finished. I'm going to come back to that. I have two more things to say real quick. Actually, three. So I'm going to do this real quick, all right? Because I like to get in here and out by 20 minutes, okay? So January 28th, 1950, Lavelle Blanks, former Atlanta Brave and Chicago White Sox infielder, is born in Del Rio, Texas. Now, this guy has a great legacy. I don't know if you know much about him or if you remember him playing when he played for either one of the White Sox or the Braves, but his uncle, Sid Blanks, was a running back in the American Football League, AFL, and the NFL from 1964 to 1970. And I have a complete set of 1966 football cards, and he is one of those players on the cards. I think he was playing for Houston that year, but Sid Blanks was his name. Now Lavelle had a cousin, which was Sid Blanks' son, named Lance Banks, and he was a professional basketball player in the NBA and later served as the general manager for the Phoenix Suns. Did you know that? Yeah. This is the same family right here, the Blanks family. Now, also, Lance's daughter, Riley Banks, was a competitive tennis player at the University of Virginia. Now, that's quite a legacy of athletes, but guess what? I bet you did not even know that, right? You'll be surprised who is kin to who. But yeah, Sid Blanks. I have that card. I can still see it in my mind. I have that set in a book there in my closet right now. In the 1966 AFL Tops football set. All right. So somebody said morticians Also, Tom Wilson. Now, Tom Wilson was one. That's a good guess. And J.L. Wilkinson. No, J.L. Wilkinson, his business was baseball. His wife's business, actually, she had a antique store. And Tom Wilson, his business was actually sports. Uh, he operated the football team, the Nashville Elites football team, and then he had the Baltimore Elites. He had well, he moved the elites all the way around, and then he had the Elites Winter League team as well that they played out in California. So Tom Wilson. Now I could be stand corrected, but I don't think Tom Wilson had funeral home connections. But there are some who even had that I know had funeral home connections. All right. All right, so we're going to go to this one. This was another sad thing that happened on this day, January 28, 1958. Dodgers mainstay catcher Roy Campanella fractured his neck in an early morning automobile accident when his car skidded, overturned, and crashed into a utility pole in Glen Cove, New York. The three-time National League MVP never walked again. So that was the legendary Roy Campanella. His accident happened on this day back in 1958. Think about that, guys. I was 2 years old when that happened, but by the time I was in the fifth or sixth grade, I was actually picking up Roy Campanella cards, and I remember I had specifically, I want to say it was the 1950. One of the 1952 or something like that, 52, 53 card. I took it to school to show some of my friends, and my teacher took it, and I never got it back. So, and to this day, I still don't have that card. I need to actually maybe go and buy it just for the heck of it, just so I can have it. That same teacher took my 1964 Beatles cards too. No, that was a different teacher. So it was the sixth grade teacher who took my Roy Campanella. It was my second grade teacher who took the Beatles cards from me, because she said these were toys, and I would always bring these cards to school so I could show my buddies. And a lot of times they didn't make it back home. Teachers confiscated some good collectibles back in those days. So somebody said, Campy overturned. Are you sure? I saw a wreck. It didn't look like a rollover. Well, that's what I read. That's what I read when I did this report. And I put this in here a number of years ago. So, hey, minor detail. Maybe it didn't overturn. I don't know. But we do know for certain that he never walked again. That part is true. Yeah. Okay, so that was Dodgers mainstay Roy Campanella. Okay, I've just got one more, and then we will return to the trivia question. All right. So, guys, if you like what I'm doing here, go ahead and hit subscribe. All right. So somebody said you had tough teachers. Yeah, they were tough. All right, they were tough. But guess what? Because of them, that's the reason why I've got about 8 or 9 books these days, because teachers made me write, and also my cursive writing is outstanding, because they didn't mess around with that either. We had to start writing cursive in the 3rd grade. So anyway, but hey, this is also interesting. You know, I lived 60 miles from Topeka, Kansas, where they had the legendary Brown versus Topeka Board of Education. And that was in 52, 54, somewhere in there. And so by the time I got to school in the kindergarten, I was like 1960. And would you believe I went all the way through the 8th grade before I had a white teacher. And I did not have a white student in my class until I was in the 10th grade. And that was only because I moved away from the all-black school. But had I gone to that school, which was Sumner High School, I would have gone my whole academic career without a white student in my class and only a few white teachers. How about that? And I'm 60 miles from Topeka, Kansas, where they had the legendary Brown versus the Board of Education case. All right, so that's just a little sidebar, and that's for you history buffs that are out there. Okay, so this is the other one that's pretty interesting, because on January 28, 1978, this guy passed away, and guess what? He went to Sumner High School, the same high school I would have went to. His name was Samuel T. Thompson. He died in Los Angeles, California. I had the pleasure of interviewing his widow many years ago, and he played for over a decade, 1931 to 1942. He played for teams like the Kansas City Monarchs, Detroit Stars, Philadelphia Stars, and the Chicago American Giants. And he was born in Sulligent, Alabama. But he ended up in Kansas City, Kansas, and he attended Sumner High School, and which was the all-black high school. It's still there. The building's still there, but now it's an academy, so it's pretty mixed now. But when I came along, it was definitely in the black community, and it was not mixed. And he also went to Wiley College down in Marshall, Texas. So that's Samuel T. Thompson. And once again, now this isn't Sad Sam, the guy who went. That's Sam Jones, who went and played, with the Cubs and things in the National League, was a pitcher. This is a different guy. And so you might not know about this player, but he's one certainly in the record books, and he's part of the people who were statistics were merged that you need to know about. All right. So somebody said, with your teachers, good thing you didn't collect gold. That's probably true. I think I would have probably put up a little fight for that, or my parents might have come up to the school. They weren't coming up there for baseball cards, and they certainly weren't going to come up there for no Beatles cards, right? So all right then. Okay, so you ready? Let's go back to the trivia question. Let me go back here. Okay, so I started off by just telling you this guy, Albert Mowbray, Moubray, age 20, and was meeting with some friends, fellow baseball players down over in Annapolis, Maryland, and he accidentally shot himself, and with a pistol he owned, shot himself, and so anyway, they came and they picked up the body and they took him to a funeral home that was called uh, J. Albert J. Albert Adams Undertaker. Okay, and that's who prepared him for burial. So that made me think, hey, maybe I should ask on my broadcast tonight, who knows the other Undertakers? All right, so here we go, right now. Okay, so first of all, in the mortuary business would be Tom Hayes Jr. He was owner of the Birmingham Black Barons back in the 40s when they were winning all those championships when Willie Mays joined them. He was the owner of the teams, and he ran T.H. Hayes and Sons Funeral Home, not in Birmingham, but in Memphis. Yeah, that was Tom Hayes. Of course, he couldn't get a team in Memphis because the Martin brothers had that team, so he purchased and invested his money in the Birmingham team. All right. And then also the one I've talked about quite a bit was a guy named Robert Lewis, who owned the Memphis Red Sox. I talked about him just a few days ago, and he owned the R.S. Lewis and Sons Funeral Home. Now, I don't know if it was and Sons back then, but his sons later inherited. And back in the 80s, I went there. I went to the funeral home, and it was a magnificent funeral home I went to. This is back in the 80s, and Ernest Withers was with me during the time. You ever heard of Ernest Withers? Ernest Withers, I've got to give a whole broadcast on Ernest Withers. Ernest Withers is the Negro League photographer who was actually a undercover man for the FBI who was basically exposing the information on the civil rights leaders. And that's Ernest Withers. He took a number of baseball photographs. I actually spent the night in Ernest Withers' house, so I can tell you a lot. Man, guys, I'm telling you, you're listening to somebody who's the real deal. This is not fake stuff. I'm telling you guys, I've lived this life for real. All right? So, okay, so we have T.H. Hayes, and we have Robert S. Lewis, and then, and those were two of the guys in the Negro Leagues. Now, there was another guy, I thought maybe I introduced you to him. His name was C.H. Conti, and they were out of Kansas City, and they owned the Conti Funeral Home, right? And he wasn't connected to baseball, but his son was. His son's name was Charles H. Conti Jr., and he played for, believe it or not, the original Kansas City Royals. And I interviewed a number of guys who played for them back in the 80s. And they used to tell me about Conti. And Conti was a trombone player, a great athlete. He attended Kansas University and played sports there too. He was a track man. I even heard he played on the baseball team. But in the summer, excuse me, he traveled around with African American teams, and that was Conti. And the players nicknamed him, because his parents owned the funeral home, they nicknamed him Dead Man. And so I got that from ball players who were actually there. This is not something that I read in a book. Guys, you can search all night and you won't find out that his nickname was Dead Man unless you listen to a broadcast like this. Guys, if you want history that's real, you need to find people who've actually lived this. It's one thing to read a book and say, hey, let me tell you about something. And that's great because we need people to do that as well. But if you can find someone who actually lives the history and can tell you some things, you're going to find out more things than you would from the book because it's kind of like with a movie. When a movie has less in it than a book, but a human mind has more in it than the book or the movie. How about that? So anyway, that is my broadcast for tonight, man. I, I went a lot of places. We've been all around the world and back here. And so I do want to thank you for joining. And guys, we're picking up subscribers every day. I'm moving along. I'm working to get that 600 subscriber now. And when we hit 1,000 subscribers, I'm going to do some different things. I'll probably be doing more recordings and dropping things like that because some people, they don't like to come in on the lives. They'd rather see like a little clip or something like that, teaching the same thing that I'm teaching here, but you can't answer the questions or ask me a question. So anyway, that is it for me. Somebody says, I love listening to you. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. I'm just trying to tell some stories here and just give you some history. So thank you for your support. I want to say that. All right. And then somebody says, same here. Okay. Yeah, I appreciate. You know what, guys? I have to tip my hat to you for joining this broadcast and staying with me. And hey, I'll keep dropping some information. Hey, and who knows? Maybe some young people will start joining and they will be the next generation of Negro League historians. They're out there just like I was out there, many years ago. How about this? Over 60 years ago, I started following baseball. And actually, it's been more than that because I'm 69 now. And I started following baseball probably in the second, third grade. After teacher took my Beatles cards, I went back to the store. Only thing left was baseball cards. So I was in second grade, guys. What a second grader? 6, 7 years old, 6, 7, maybe 8 at the most. That's how long I've been enjoying baseball. I had the pleasure of working as assistant director for the public relations for the Kansas City Royals, co-founder of Negro Leagues Museum, written a number of books on the topic, won book awards writing on baseball. I coached for over 30 years. I played for as long as I could, but guys, right now I'm enjoying giving these broadcasts daily. So we're going to keep on pushing and try to get to that 1,000 subscribers. That's an important plateau. So I'm working hard to get there. All right. So thank you, guys. Somebody said trivia for you, Phil. I played softball with one of the backups for the Beatles. Wow. Wow. I wonder, it wasn't Peter Best, was it? Peter Best, you remember him? The drummer, Ringo took his place. Hey, believe me, I had all kind of trivia on the Beatles. So I don't know, what's his name? Give me that, and then I'm getting out of it. Well, Bob, go ahead and put it in the comments, and then because I might want to look that one up. One of the backups. It wasn't Billy Preston. Well, no, yeah, I don't think he played ball. So anyway, guys, thank you. I'm ready to get out here. I'm way past my end time. And okay, he said no, but close. Yeah, be sure and drop that in there, Bob. I'm kind of curious now. All right, have a nice day, guys, and I'll see you real soon. Bye.